So where does the Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey tandem rank in the NBA? We'll talk about that more and next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. What's up, Mitch? How you been, bro?
I'm doing well, Keith, man. Thank you for asking, dude. How you doing today, man?
Oh, I can't complain. For y'all who don't know, I'm Keith Pompey, and that's my man, John Mitchell. We are the co-hosts of Locked On 76ers. We got a lot to talk to y'all about today. First, we want to talk about where does the Embiid and Maxey tandem rank? Secondly, the Sixers didn't make it to the quarterfinals of the in-season tournament. Right now, the semifinals are about to go on. But do you put a lot of stock into the Sixers not making it? And then lastly, we're just going to talk about some things, just whatever comes to their mind and this and that. But these first two topics have we have a lot to talk about. The last one we're going to talk about I'll spit it out there now. We got to talk about the Washington Wizards. Yeah. Talk about the Sixers. Like, the Sixers should boat race them tonight. They just should. They should boat race them. But the deal is, Mitch, where do you rank this Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid tandem this season?
That's an interesting point. I guess since we're at the quarter point, we're evaluating, things like that. I put it this way. I ranked them ahead of where I would have ranked a Joel Embiid Harden tandem. Of the tandems currently, I have Giannis and Dame number one. I think I would definitely have Joker and Jamal Murray, but Jamal Murray's not playing, so I don't have him in there. And you could flip flop those two. I tend to because I have Dame ahead of Jamal Murray. But I had the 76ers currently. I have them as a number two tandem in the league right now, Maxey and Joel. I say they're number two. I think they've carried the team to a very respectable record. And again, we conceivably have Joel and Harden if they were together. And I'm going, because that's the duo we had last year and for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. This duo, in my opinion, is better. And I know people say, well, how can you put Maxey ahead of a guy who's a future Hall of Famer? And it's just because the future Hall of Famer always goes splat against the windshield when the playoffs get here. At least he did in Philly, and he did in other places. So, yeah, I have him number two. I do have Giannis and Dame as the best tandem in the league, because I still have Giannis as a better player, slightly than Joel. And I clearly had Dame as a better player than Maxey.
Yeah, there are some people who will say Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, deserve to be up there too. But when I look at it, they are. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, a lot of people will talk about them as well. People will talk about, Kevin Durant and Booker, right? Mm-hmm. Some people may say LeBron and AD, right? They won a championship. I don't think so. And there's some people may say, like we said, like the Joker and like you said, my man. The thing is, I think that right now when you look at the scoring and how that two-man game is working for Maxey and Embiid, I mean, it is really working extremely well.
Right.
To a point where, There are times when you say when they get this balance of scoring, free flowing offense, everything works well. But there are also times where they're blowing teams away with their 2-man game. Like they just come out in the 2-man game, and that's really good. Now there are going to be times where there are certain teams who are getting physical with them and they're doing certain things to them that's really disrupting them. But I do think that it still has a lot of growth. It can grow some more. That it still needs to grow. So with that being said, I have to rank it up pretty high because what we saw is we're seeing the beginning of it. And I think that it's only going to get better, right? And when you get a Kelly Oubre here, it's going to open more things up for the Sixers. When
he makes that 2-man tandem better. When they're free flowing and not locked into the 2-man attack.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the thing that you pointed out, the Dame and Giannis thing is really good. Now it seems like Dame is like suffering a little bit individually. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like scoring wise. Right. And it's not bad. I mean, I think what it is like he's averaging 25.6 points. But again, that's because he's playing with another elite player. And at times he's deferring a little bit, right? But at the same time, they got that thing built to win a championship. Right. Whereas you have Maxey averaging 27 points, but you have Joel Embiid averaging 32, where you have Giannis averaging 30.2. I'm not a big fan of the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown thing. No, I'm not. Nah, because it reminds me of AAU basketball. Like I hate watching the Boston Celtics play as much as because it's like you don't see. I mean, you think they do have a really good team, but a lot of times I don't see the ball movement. I see like AAU ball a lot. Like, you know what I mean? I see one guy on one side getting his and the other guy getting his. It rarely do you see both of those dudes cooking at the same time. Like typically you see Jaylen Brown getting off in the first half and then Jason Tatum in the second half, but then Jaylen Brown is quiet. I think it could be a great tandem.
You think it's coaching? You think if Ime was still there, they would be better? It would be
I do. I do. I mean, I and maybe that's what it is. Yeah. Because I don't see them playing together. I don't. I think that they could have it. They could be the number one because they're interchangeable parts. Like they could play multiple different positions, right?
And they're so
I don't see it, man. Like when you see them play, it's kind of like, are you going to pass the ball to the other guy? I guess that's why Porzingis worked so well because they both pass to him. Yeah. But you don't see them passing to each other, it looks like. It just looks like it's like, okay, this is my turn, it's your turn. Right. Like, you don't see like where you have you don't see that 2-man game that Embiid and Maxey has, if that makes sense. Yeah. What you see is one guy getting the ball up, coming down, scoring.
So let's make
the dog gets the ball, comes down and scores, huh?
Let's make up an AAU. They're a Boston Bean elite.
Exactly. That's what it's like, man. It's I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just don't like it. And I know I watched last night. I watched the Knicks play against Milwaukee, and I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see this Julius Randle. The 2-man game with him in the point guard.
Yeah,
Rick Brunson, and I didn't like what I saw either, man. Like, I'm like, yo, it's like to a point. I saw Randle pass the ball a couple times to Brunson, but I'm looking at it like Randle was balling, and Brunson was coming down shooting, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I just didn't like. I don't like it. So when you look at comparing the Sixers 2-man to these other people, they're way ahead. They're way better, in my opinion. Way better.
Yeah. That's why I have them firmly at number 2. I think it's because Joel's played so well this year. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Joel's offensive number come down a little bit, and I'd like to see him on the glass more and more of a rim protector. And that's just me being picky. It's kind of hard to look at the way he's playing right now and complain about what he's doing. Although I do have some buddies who will say, yeah, as the season goes on, he steps out further and further from the rim, and he does. But where we are right now at the quarter turn of the season, and the way Maxey has emerged, in this two-man system, and again, his numbers went down. The scoring went down, coinciding with the absence of Kelly Oubre. I think with Kelly Oubre back, that puts another threat, on the perimeter and at the rim. That makes the game easier for Tyrese. You know what I mean? And I think, I think that has them firmly. Like now, if Jokic and Murray were healthy, I would have them above them clearly because they've got a championship in the satchel. But we're currently looking at what's on the floor right now, and I think they're the second best two-man tandem. I know people say, "What about Bron and AD?" And I'm just like, no, I just can't see it anymore. I think that hope for a championship in LA, I think that ship has sailed completely. And it doesn't diminish anything but LeBron has done, because he's arguably, the second best player in the history of the league. I don't know why everybody just leapfrogs him over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt, but that's a whole different topic for a different day.
You think he's better than Jordan?
No.
Okay, okay.
No, I'm not. I think he's a great player. I think LeBron is, and not to be off topic. I think that LeBron is selfish to a fault. He's unselfish to a fault. And I think he's been that way throughout his career. I remember covering his games when I was covering the Wizards, man, and just watching that guy just physically manhandle people. And I remember people used to say he couldn't play in that era during the 80s. And I'm like, are you kidding me? People say, oh, yeah, if you put Dennis Rodman on him, he wouldn't score. I'm like, man, LeBron's 260, 265. I don't think the worm could really hold him. I mean, he's a better defender than anybody he's ever seen. And I don't want to take anything, away from him. But, LeBron is number two. As we digress from our topic, he's his own worst enemy because of his unselfishness. He's always needed to be more selfish as a player. Yeah. I said Rasheed Wallace would have been a Hall of Famer had he been more selfish. Would have been a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys, and I don't knock guys like that because they were coached that the team is, the emphasis is on the team. But yeah,
I feel you. But look, man, let's talk about eBay Motors real quick, right? Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us this week on eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Pick of the Week. Now, the player that I'm picking, y'all, call me a homer because it's Sixers guy, but I'm picking Kelly Oubre Jr. And the reason being is because this week, especially tonight, they're going to play a tomato can in the Washington Wizards. And I know it's his first game back, but the Wizards give up a lot of points. The Wizards are a team, and they got a lot of problems right now. Yeah. And typically when your first game back, you come out with a lot of emotion. So I expect him to get in there and to get some buckets, right?
Kiki froze on me.
I just felt like with going up against the Wizards, going up against the Atlanta Hawks, but specifically the Wizards, right? Specifically the Wizards. I just felt like, I know this is his first game back, but I feel like Kelly is going to be able to excel against this matchup. So that's why I'm picking Kelly Oubre over there. Now, Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same for your vehicle. If so with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, is guaranteed to fit your ride for the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, look at these prices. You're burning rubber, not burning cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. So, Mitch, we talked about that. We talked about a lot of other things. The question I want to ask you is this NBA in-season tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Sixers didn't make it. They lost. They didn't come out of their pool. Indiana did. So you look at it right now, you know that the Boston has the best record in the league. The Milwaukee Bucks made it. Indiana made it.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be the third best team in the league.
Yeah.
A lot of stock in this thing that Indiana made it over them.
No, Indiana's playing really well now. But no, I don't put a lot of stock in it. What it is. It boosts interest in the teams that you're following until they get bumped. I think once you get bumped, people are just like, let me pick my pool for the NFL or whatever. You know what I mean? It's quasi interesting, and teams were playing harder. And I guess that $500K per man kind of up the ante. But you would have liked to see the Sixers get at least reach the quarterfinals. But I don't put any stock in it from a long range standpoint. What is the Pelicans and the Lakers, Bucks and the Pacers. No, I'm not. I'm especially if you look at that Western bracket. I mean, obviously Denver's not in it. But I don't put much credence in it moving forward. It was relatively exciting in the moment, and I'm sure the NBA is going to stick with it and continue to use it, see what they get out of it as far as fan support. But no, it's in the long range. You would have liked to see the 76ers, possibly get there because it builds excitement. It will build excitement around a team. And I'm sure it's doing that in places like Indy and, places like New Orleans, where, they want to see those teams advance, and they've had really nothing to cheer about for years. But no, I don't put a lot of credence in it. No, I don't. It's like a barometer of where teams may be at the quarter. But I think that, granted, they've got losses too. They're one in the teams that are in the quarterfinal or in the semis. They're 1-3 against those teams, if I'm not mistaken. They've lost to the Pels, but they were shorthanded. They lost to the Pacers, but they've beaten the Pacers, and they lost to the Bucks in the season opener. So I'm not going. Yeah, I'm not putting. You look at their 1-3 against those teams, and of course they drubbed the Lakers and gave LeBron their biggest loss in quite some in his career. But yeah, no, I'm not disappointed. What's your take on it?
Here's the thing. I think it's for teams like the Pelicans and teams like the Pacers. It lets you know, like, okay, well, they got something.
Yeah,
they're competitive. It lets you know that the Pelicans are competitive when they're healthy and when they come to play. The same thing with the Pacers. But the thing that gets me is now the difference is that in the playoffs is the best of 7 series. So there comes down to be adjustments. It looks like to me that if they play the Pacers, it's going to come down to adjustments, right? The Pacers may win that first game, but I think over a 7-game series, I think that the Sixers are just too good. I think that the Boston Celtics are just too good for teams like Indiana. But in like this type of tournament, you know, where in certain games people are injured, this and that, they're out, this and that. Because, like, let's face it, the Boston Celtics didn't have Porzingis. So, with that being said, I just feel like it puts you on notice on the Pacers, but at the same time, I don't see the Pacers beating these teams in the best of 7 series. I just don't. And you know, like, I think for television, if you're, you know, TV, I mean, it's great, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they would love to have the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets, and the Lakers. Like, they don't want New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? They wanted the Joker in Vegas playing maybe LeBron or Phoenix. So yeah, like, I just think that is good. But in the best of 7, I don't see the Indiana Pacers beating the Sixers. I don't see UM. I just don't. I just don't. That's just me. I just think that they're not as deep. I just don't.
You're right. In a 1-game elimination, things can happen. You know, you catch somebody on the right night, and you know, it's just December and teams are playing without. You know, I mean, everybody's been shorthanded already. You know.
Yeah, exactly. But let's talk about game time. Like, how many times, man, and we talk about this a lot, bro, but how many times have you, like, wanted to go and you just don't get it, right? You just like, I can't, nah, I'm not spending that money. It happens to a lot of people. Well, you don't have to worry about that at game time, right? You shouldn't have to worry about when you're buying tickets for your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out. And that's what you want. You want something that's going to take the guesswork out. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase, right? Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Very few guarantees out there.
You got that right. Definitely had that one right. So let me talk to you about Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Mitch, we're not expecting a close game tonight, are we?
No.
I mean, I think if it's a close game, that's a bad win for the 76ers, right?
Yeah, it's you know what it is? It's like a Philadelphia Eagles win. It could mask some issues.
Yeah, man, that's what it's going to be like, right? If they do it, yeah, it's like struggling, and at the end, Embiid hits a 3 or dunks, and then they go on a run, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, you have some stats about this the Wizards. Now, again, I don't think the Wizards are trying to win. I just don't. I think they're tanking. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Poole. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't. Maybe it's frustrating to him because he went from the best team, one of the best teams, to one of the worst. But the video that's showing up of him in the huddle, not paying attention, him like dribbling the ball up.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he has he hasn't really been right this whole season. And I think the 76ers are primed they should be primed to beat this team. But it's the Wizards, man. I mean, they haven't been, I covered them for 10 years. They have been since not since the days of Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld. And you look at them today defensively, they're putrid. I was looking at that. They've given up in their losses. They've given up 120 points 13 times this season. They've given up 139 times in losses this season. And teams have broken 140 against them in losses 3 times this year. So, that's a bad brand of basketball. I mean, there might be some AAUTs and DMV that could probably go out there and get 125 on them. And of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's hard to watch. Those fans are being tortured down. I think they're used to it because they've never had much to watch down there. But the Sixers should be able to go in there. It's a perfect place for Kelly Oubre to make his return. It's no pressure. It's not a home game. It's on the road. And I think to not beat this team by at least 8, and if they beat them by 8, hopefully that means they've led by like 20, 22 for most of the game. And every team makes a run in the NBA. You hope that that's how it ends with the Wizards making a run. But it's the beginning of a stretch of horrible games for the 76ers where they really can find out where their pieces are and where they belong, and pick up some easy wins. This is the point in this game. This is the early Christmas for them.
Yeah, they lost 11 out of 12, I believe, and their only victory during that time came against the worst Detroit Pistons. Yeah, they got. I mean, Orlando. I mean, here's the thing: they lost to Orlando by 5 points at Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
First game they lost by 19. So you 5 points isn't bad to Orlando, which I must say has been a surprise team.
Yeah.
But you look at it, man. They look really bad, man. They look bad right about now. And you feel sorry for Wes Unseld Jr. You know what I mean? You feel sorry for him, but it's going to be long. Now again, Kyle Kuzma has been playing well. He's basically leading them in scoring. He had 27 the last game, 23 the one before that, 32 the game before that. But they got problems, man.
Yeah.
They have real bad problems. And like we talked about Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole, in my opinion, has been a disappointment.
He was
from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah, he looks like a product of what Golden State had.
Yeah. I mean, he's averaging 23.6 assists. He's shooting. The crazy thing is he's shooting 44.4% from 3, which is good.
Yeah.
But from a leadership standpoint, he just doesn't look like a leader to me. He just doesn't.
He don't have much to lead, though.
Yeah, you don't have much to lead, but the thing is, let's look at Tyrese Halliburton. So Tyrese Halliburton goes to Indiana, and you can argue, I hate to say this, but would you rather live in Washington, D.C. or Indianapolis, right?
Right,
so he goes there. They were struggling, and look at him. He turned into a star, became the man.
Yeah.
Became the man. So I think it's all about you. You gotta embrace that. Because you look at him and Kyle Kuzma, I'm not saying they're one of the best tandems, but Kyle Kuzma has shown people that he can play.
Yeah.
And you look at these two, and they could probably be a pretty good, young dynamic duo, so to speak. I mean, nobody's going to fight them for shots or anything like that, know? So his stats are good, but from a leadership standpoint, and I get it, it's hard to leave going from Steph and all that, but let's face it, man. nowadays you become an all-star. He wasn't going to be an all-star playing with Steph and them. But
Right.
you become like nowadays you go to a Bobo squad
Yeah.
and you put up a lot of numbers, and next thing you know, you're an all-star, you're all NBA, you getting a super max deal. So you got to embrace it, man. You got to embrace it because you never know. And thus far, it doesn't look like he's really embraced the situation. He looks a good statistical player, but outside of that, he's just been struggling. I mean, he just has. But look, y'all, we want to thank y'all for listening. You can get this just know that this podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcast from. You could go to our YouTube channel and Locked On 76ers YouTube and get us. But click on the Liberty Bell, become a subscriber. But we want to thank y'all for listening, and we want y'all to have a blessed day. Peace.
Take care, y'all.